Have you ever noticed that the harder you chase after your dreams, the further they seem to drift away? Do you find yourself exhausted by the relentless pursuit of success, happiness, or love, only to wonder why these desires remain just out of reach? Imagine a different approach, a counterintuitive yet profoundly powerful way of living, where the secret to achieving more lies, not in pushing harder, but in letting go. In this audiobook, you are about to uncover a revolutionary perspective that transforms your relationship with effort and desire. By embracing what philosophers and psychologists call the backwards law, you'll learn how releasing your grip on life's outcomes can paradoxically draw success and fulfillment closer to you. Throughout this journey, you will discover how the relentless pursuit of goals can inadvertently sabotage your success. Learn powerful insights from renowned spiritual teachers and cutting-edge neuroscience about harnessing the art of surrender. Master practical, easy-to-follow exercises, meditations, and journaling prompts that guide you gently toward profound personal transformation. Experience a newfound ease in achieving your desires as you replace struggle with a calm and confident flow. If you're ready to stop exhausting yourself chasing elusive dreams and instead allow life's richest rewards to flow naturally toward you, then this audiobook holds the keys to that liberation. Get comfortable, take a deep breath, and prepare yourself to master the paradox of effort, the astonishing truth that to truly achieve more, you must first learn to let go. Imagine standing in a calm pool of water. Instinctively, you try to stay afloat by frantically paddling and tensing up. Yet the more you struggle, the more you sink. But when you stop fighting and relax, your body naturally rises and floats. Life often works in the same paradoxical way. When we strive too desperately for something, be it success, happiness, love, or control, we often push it further away. And when we finally let go, those very desires have a way of gently finding us. As the philosopher Alan Watts observed, when you try to stay on the surface of the water, you sink. But when you try to sink, you float. When you hold your breath, you lose it. This captures the essence of what he called the backwards law. The harder we push for a desired state, the more elusive it becomes. The paradox of effort. A woman releases a red balloon into the evening sky, a visual metaphor for letting go of our attachments and expectations. In letting it go, she finds a sense of relief and freedom. Take a moment to ponder this paradox in your own life. Perhaps you've noticed that the more frantically you chase after sleep on a restless night, the more awake you feel. Or the harder you work to impress someone, the less they seem to notice. There is an almost ironic law of reverse effort at play in such moments. In fact, psychologist Daniel Wegner's famous white bear experiment demonstrated that trying not to think of something, don't think of a white bear, makes that thought flood our mind even more. What we resist doesn't just persist, it magnifies. Conversely, when we loosen our grip and allow things to be, solutions and outcomes often flow with surprising ease. This audiobook is an immersive journey into that very phenomenon, the backwards law. It invites you to explore how letting go, paradoxically, can bring you closer to what you seek. We will draw on the wisdom of spiritual teachers like Alan Watts and Eckhart Tolle, the insights of psychology and neuroscience, from the flow state of optimal experience to the inner workings of the brain's networks, and weave in stories, metaphors, and practical exercises. Together, we'll travel through stages of understanding and transformation, from recognizing our incessant striving to cultivating self-awareness and emotional acceptance, to practicing the art of surrendering control and trusting the larger process of life. Along the way, you'll find reflective journaling, prompts to deepen your insight and guided exercises, breathing, visualization, and mindfulness techniques to ground these ideas into your body and daily experience. The tone will be gentle, meditative, and compassionate, as if you're listening to a wise, understanding friend. As you read or listen, allow yourself to relax into the experience. Let your shoulders drop and take a slow, deep breath. If any part of you is holding on to tension, perhaps the part that needs to achieve or understand everything right away, see if you can gently exhale and release that for now. You're embarking on a journey of surrender where there is no rush and no pressure to get it right. In fact, give yourself permission to not try too hard as you take in these words. Let them wash over you like a gentle tide. You might even close your eyes between paragraphs and notice how you feel. There is great power in this state of receptive openness. As Eckhart Tolle teaches, surrender is the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to, rather than opposing, the flow of life. In yielding to this experience, you may begin to sense the truth of the backwards law in your own life. And by the end of this journey, you will hopefully not only understand with your mind, but feel in your heart how letting go can lead to greater mastery and fulfillment. The path ahead is one of subtle yet powerful transformation through self-awareness, emotional healing, release of control, trust in the unfolding of life, and finally embodying surrender as a way of being. Let's begin this path together with curiosity and kindness, stepping into the paradox that by giving up the frantic chase, we gain what we were looking for all along. Understanding the backwards law when trying harder backfires. We live in a culture that often glorifies effort, hustle, and holding on tight to our goals. Hard work and perseverance certainly have their place, yet there's a limit beyond which effort becomes counterproductive. The backwards law is the notion that the more you pursue something, the more you reinforce the fact that you lack it, making it harder to attain. This idea has been echoed by thinkers across time. British writer Aldous Huxley coined it the law of reversed effort, noting that the harder we try with the conscious will to do something, the less we shall succeed. Proficiency and results come only to those who have learned the paradoxical art of doing and not doing, or combining relaxation with activity. In other words, beyond a certain point, straining toward a result actually creates tension that blocks the natural process required for success. Consider some everyday paradoxes that illustrate the backwards law in action. Happiness. The more fiercely you chase after happiness as a goal, the more it seems to slip through your fingers. Constantly measuring, "Am I happy yet?" only highlights your discontent. But when you allow yourself to have a bad day or accept moments of sadness, a deeper contentment can arise unforced. As one author put it, desiring a positive experience is itself a negative experience. Accepting a negative experience is a positive experience. By accepting occasional unhappiness, we paradoxically invite more genuine happiness. Confidence. Perhaps you've had times of low confidence and tried to fix it by trying to appear confident. That effort likely felt forced and awkward, maybe even increasing your self-consciousness. True confidence often emerges when you stop trying to impress and simply embrace your authentic self, flaws and all. Letting go of the need to feel confident can actually make you more comfortable in your skin. Conversely, the more we anxiously strive to be confident, the more we signal to ourselves that we aren't, fueling anxiety. Love and approval. Think of someone desperate to be liked. They bend over backwards to please others, fear rejection, and maybe cling in relationships. Sadly, that neediness can push people away. We intuitively sense when someone is not their relaxed self around us. In contrast, when you stop chasing others' approval and develop self-acceptance, you often become more magnetic. You give off a calm, self-assured energy that naturally attracts respect and affection. It's often when people finally swear off dating or stop looking so hard for a partner that love finds them. The old saying holds, what you chase runs away. The more we need love from others, the less we receive. The more we love and value ourselves, the more love seems to flow in from outside control. The more tightly we try to control every detail of life, our emotions, other people's actions, outcomes of events, the more life resists. It's like holding sand. Grip it too hard and it slips out. Our emotional state is especially unruly. Struggling to never feel anxiety or anger often stirs up more turmoil. But if we allow those feelings to come and go, they tend to pass more quickly, a point we'll explore in depth later. Similarly, trying to control others through pressure or worry can strain relationships, whereas trusting and giving space often yields better cooperation and harmony. Skill and performance. This paradox shows up in sports, arts, and any performance. A musician overly focused on not making mistakes may play stiffly and end up flubbing notes. An athlete who wants that win so badly might choke under pressure. In psychology, this is known as paralysis by analysis, when too much conscious control interferes with fluid performance. Cognitive scientists find that paying excessive conscious attention to a well-practiced skill can break down your execution. One study observed that skilled golfers who perform their best couldn't recall the precise mechanics of their swing afterward. They had essentially let their body take over on autopilot. In contrast, those who performed worse were monitoring and micromanaging each movement, trying too hard. Their intense desire to perform perfectly actually led to more errors. This is the backwards law in our neuromuscular system. Trust and relaxation allow mastery to shine, whereas fear of failure and over-effort cause stiffness and mistakes. These examples underscore a key insight. Any fixation on a desired state inherently highlights its absence. When you are wholly focused on getting happiness, confidence, love, control, or success, you're indirectly telling yourself, I don't have this. That mindset creates a feedback loop of dissatisfaction or anxiety that makes the goal ever harder to reach. On the flip side, accepting where you are, with its imperfections, creates a fertile mental space in which progress can happen naturally. It is when the student stops obsessing over their grade and genuinely engages in learning that their performance improves. It's when the mind stops screaming, "I must sleep now," and wanders elsewhere that sleep finally comes. Even spiritual attainment follows the backwards law. Zen teachers often warn that striving for enlightenment too fervently becomes a barrier. Enlightenment is not an object one can grab. It's a state of surrender and insight that arises when grasping ceases. There's a famous Zen story in which a student asks a master how long it takes to reach enlightenment. The master says, 10 years? The student then asks, "What if I try really hard?" The master smiles, "Then 20 years. The very effort to force awakening creates tension that blocks the natural awakening. Surrender, patience, and presence open the door instead. Interestingly, Eastern philosophies have long embraced this paradox. Taoism speaks of Wu Wei, often translated as effortless action or doing by not doing. It doesn't mean literal inaction, but rather aligning with the flow of nature instead of against it. A tree doesn't struggle to grow. It simply responds to sun and water. A skilled calligrapher allows the brush to dance rather than rigidly controlling each stroke. In life, when we align with the Tao, the way things naturally go, our actions become smooth and effective, almost effortless, because we're not swimming upstream. The backwards law is essentially Wu Wei applied to modern pursuits. Step back, loosen the grip, and things tend to fall into place. Story, the Chinese finger trap. Remember those novelty Chinese finger trap toys? You insert a finger in each end of a little woven bamboo tube. Instinctively, you try to pull your fingers out, but that only tightens the trap around them. The more you panic and yank, the more stuck you become. The trick is counterintuitive. You must push in slightly and relax. Only by softening and moving with the trap can you loosen its grip and free yourself. Many of our life struggles are just like this. Our instinct is to push harder or resist what's happening. But freedom comes when we lean into the experience, soften our approach, and let go of frantic effort. Keep this image in mind as a guiding metaphor. If you feel life trapping you, consider if an opposite, softer approach might set you free. Reflection. Think about an area in your life where you've been caught in this backwards push-pull. What's something you desperately wanted, only to feel it getting further away the harder you tried? It could be a goal that led to burnout, an unrequited effort in a relationship or friendship, or a personal habit, like trying not to worry, which only made you more anxious. Jot down a few notes about this situation. How did it feel as you were straining toward it? What eventually happened? Did you reach a point of giving up or changing approach? Sometimes just recognizing this pattern is the first step to unwinding it. Journaling. Prompt. Describe a specific time when trying too hard backfired. What were you chasing or resisting? How did your intense focus or effort actually make things worse? And what happened when you finally eased up? Or if you haven't yet, what do you imagine might happen if you did? By acknowledging the backwards law dynamics in your own experience, you prepare the ground for a new way of approaching life. Awareness shines a light on the paradox, making it easier to step out of the trap. In the next sections, we will build on this awareness. You'll learn how to cultivate a mindful understanding of your inner state, gently regulate the strong emotions that fuel overstriving, practice the tangible skills of releasing control, and ultimately develop an inner trust in life's flow. Each stage will help you loosen that figurative finger trap a bit more, replacing struggle with ease and anxiety with peaceful power. Take a deep breath. Recognizing the problem is a big accomplishment. Now we turn inward to understand ourselves, the very mechanism that gets caught in the backwards law, and learn how to transform our relationship with striving. Cultivating self-awareness, seeing your striving and resistance. Transformation begins with self-awareness. To change a pattern like chronic striving or resisting, we first must notice when it's happening and understand why. In this section, we'll gently examine our own minds and habits to recognize the subtle ways we hold on too tight. Through mindful observation and reflection, we shine a compassionate light on the parts of us that are afraid to let go. The grip of attachment. Picture yourself clenching your fist around an object. If you hold on long enough, you might forget you're even clenching. It becomes unconscious. We do the same with our desires and aversions. We grip them tightly and they start to feel normal. Self-awareness is like opening that fist and looking at what you're holding. What outcomes are you white-knuckling in life? It could be the need to get a certain job, to have people think of you in a particular way, or to avoid any mistakes at work. Often, these attachments stem from fear. Fear of failure, fear of not being enough, fear of uncertainty. There is a part of you that believes only by holding on and trying hard can you feel safe or worthy. Begin by tuning in to your inner dialogue in moments of stress. When something isn't going your way, what are the predominant thoughts? Perhaps an anxious voice ruminates, "This must work out. I can't allow I won't be happy until Those are clues that you're entangled in the backwards law. The mind is intensely attached to a certain result, or it's fighting against a present reality. There may also be physical clues, a tightness in your chest when you think about your goal, a pit in your stomach when you imagine not getting it, shallow breathing when things feel out of control. Our bodies often reveal our mental clinging. For instance, do you notice your jaw or shoulders tensing up when you're fixated on an outcome? That's a sign of resistance in real time. Exercise. Body scan for control. Let's try a short exercise. Sit or lie down in a comfortable position. Take a deep breath and close your eyes. Now, bring to mind a situation in your life where you feel yourself striving very hard or holding on to control. It might be something discussed earlier, a goal, a relationship, or an aspect of yourself you're pushing to change. As you think about it, pay attention to your body. Scan from head to toe, slowly. Where do you feel any tension or contraction? Maybe it's a knot in your stomach, or a constriction in your throat, or pressure in your forehead. Simply notice it. Now breathe into that area. Imagine your breath flowing there and gently expanding that spot. As you exhale, see if it softens at all, releasing even 10%. You might say silently on the exhale, "It's okay, let go." Don't force the tension to vanish. That would be more striving. Just allow it and observe if it naturally lessens with kind attention. This mindful body scan helps you become aware of where your emotional grip lives in you physically. Opening awareness in this way is powerful because what we observe, we can begin to change. Psychologically, when you observe your own thought patterns and emotions without immediately reacting, you engage your brain's more thoughtful circuits, like the prefrontal cortex, and dial down the automatic stress response. In fact, research in mindfulness shows that simply naming what you feel, this is anxiety, or here is that need for control, can reduce the intensity of the emotion's grip on you. You shift from inside the tornado of striving to a calmer vantage point, watching it. This creates space to choose a new response. Why do we strive? It's important to approach this self-inquiry with great compassion. The parts of you that overstrive or cling are not bad. They are usually scared or hurt parts, acting out of self-protection. Perhaps as a child you learned that achievement brought you love, so you push yourself relentlessly now. Or maybe chaos in your past made you vow to control everything you could when you got older. These strategies made sense at some point. Thank them for trying to help you. Then gently let those parts know that you're exploring a different way now, one that might actually ease their fear rather than perpetuate it. One psychological insight here is that attachment and aversion are two sides of the same coin. We attach to what we think will secure pleasure or safety, and we resist, have aversion to, what we think will bring pain or harm. Both are natural survival impulses, but in the modern world, our minds sometimes perceive threats and needs that are more symbolic: status, ego, perfection, rather than literal survival issues. That's why we can feel as anxious about an awkward social interaction as a hunter-gatherer might have felt spotting a predator. Our mind's alarm system doesn't always distinguish physical danger from emotional discomfort, so it clings and pushes in all these non-life-threatening situations too. Understanding this can help you not judge yourself for having these reactions. It's somewhat hardwired, but with awareness, we can rewire our responses. Neuroscience gives an interesting perspective. When we are fixated and stressed, a brain network called the default mode network, DMN, often runs wild with rumination and worry. This network engages when our mind wanders to self-centered thinking. We get caught in loops about the past and future. Why did I do that? What if I fail tomorrow? Meditation and present moment awareness are shown to quiet down the DMN, which correlates with a reduction in that self-critical, craving, or fearful inner chatter. In a way, practicing self-awareness and mindfulness puts a pause on the backwards law cycle by interrupting the mental chatter that says, "Not enough, must try harder." It brings you into the now, where, in this moment, you're actually okay. Mindfulness of striving in action. The next time you catch yourself in an anxious or impatient loop, say you're refreshing your email, repeatedly waiting for an outcome, or you notice yourself rehearsing a conversation in your head for the 10th time, use that as a bell of mindfulness. A gentle ding reminding you, this is a backwards law moment. Then, rather than judging yourself, simply observe, I'm really caught up in this. Maybe even describe it in your journal or mentally. My heart is racing. I keep thinking I'll mess up. I really want this person to agree with me. Take a few breaths and reassure the anxious part of you. I see you're worried. It's all right. This begins to break the identification with the striving mind. You are not only the desperate chaser or controller, You're also the wise observer who can step back and care for the struggler within. Journal prompt: what are the top 2 to 3 things you find yourself obsessing over or trying to control in your life right now? For each one, write down what you fear would happen if you stopped trying so hard. If I don't worry about X, then Y might happen. Then ask, what might happen if you trusted and let go a little? If I ease up, perhaps what? Explore both the fear and the possibility. This exercise can reveal the core beliefs driving your striving, and also open your mind to alternative outcomes if you relinquish a bit of control. Through honest reflection, you might discover, for example, I'm afraid if I don't work 60-hour weeks, I'll fall behind and be a failure. No wonder you're pushing so hard. That belief is terrifying. But is it ultimately true? Maybe a balanced approach could make you more effective, fewer hours but more focused and creative due to rest. Or you might realize, I cling to controlling my family's plans because I'm afraid of feeling useless or out of control if I don't manage everything. Again, understanding that fear can help you address the root need, perhaps the need to feel valued and secure, in healthier ways than over control. Self-awareness shines a compassionate light on these shadows. It doesn't immediately solve everything, but it prepares the soil. Now you're aware of the tight spots, the emotional triggers, and the thought loops. In the coming sections, we'll learn what to do with this awareness, how to soothe the fears you've uncovered, how to gently loosen the tight grip of control, and how to cultivate trust. Awareness itself will continue to be your ally in each step. Remember, you might still catch yourself striving or resisting many times a day. That's okay. Each time you notice is a victory, a moment of waking up. Over time, these moments string together, and you find you're living with more ease and openness. Before moving on, take a pause, close your eyes, and thank yourself for courageously looking within. Many people live their whole lives never questioning their stress and striving. You are doing something different and brave. Feel that as an accomplishment in itself. With that self-appreciation, let's delve deeper into the realm of emotions, where a lot of our holding on energy originates. Emotional wisdom, accepting and releasing your feelings. One of the greatest paradoxes in personal growth is that the path to peace is not to suppress or avoid negative emotions, but to fully accept and feel them. Our emotional life is a core arena where the backwards law operates. The more we resist uncomfortable feelings like anxiety, sadness, or anger, the more powerfully they tend to persist. Conversely, when we allow and embrace our emotions, even the negative ones, they often dissipate and resolve naturally, leading to a more enduring sense of peace. Think of emotions as a flow of water. If you block a stream with the dam, pressure builds up behind it. Sooner or later, the water might overflow or burst through in an uncontrolled way. Resisting emotions by bottling them up or fighting them is like damming the stream. The emotional pressure grows beneath the surface. Maybe you've experienced this. You hold back tears for days until one small frustration causes a flood of sobbing, or you swallow your anger until suddenly you explode over something trivial. These are signs that resisted feelings have amassed force. On the other hand, if you gently lift the gate and let the water, emotion, flow in a controlled manner, It runs its course and calms down. Allowing yourself to feel an emotion in the moment is like opening the floodgate just enough to let the energy pass, preventing a bigger crisis later. Modern psychology confirms the wisdom of acceptance. There's even a famous line often attributed to Carl Jung, "What you resist persists." The more you tell yourself, "I shouldn't feel this way," the more tenacious the feeling becomes, because now you've added a layer of judgment and tension on top of the original emotion. In contrast, saying, "It's okay that I feel this," immediately lessens the inner conflict. Studies on thought suppression show that trying to suppress a thought or emotion usually backfires. For example, if you try not to feel anxious, you're essentially monitoring, "Am I anxious now?" constantly, which keeps anxiety at the forefront. It's like trying not to scratch an itch. The itch dominates your awareness. But if you acknowledge, "I am anxious," and that's understandable, and even give the anxiety permission to be there, the mind doesn't have to keep sounding the alarm. You've heard it. Often the intensity drops because the feeling's purpose, to signal you about something, has been honored. Eckhart Tolle teaches about the pain body, an accumulation of old emotional pain that can dominate us if we don't bring consciousness to it. His solution is to allow the pain to be and observe it without fueling it with mental stories. In doing so, we integrate and dissolve it. This aligns perfectly with our aim here, to practice emotional surrender, which is not throwing up our hands in defeat, but rather opening our arms in acceptance. Allowing versus suppressing. Let's try a brief guided reflection to experience the difference. Recall a recent time you felt a strong emotion that you didn't like. Maybe you felt jealousy, or shame, or panic. For a moment, remember how you reacted. Did you stiffen up against it, distract yourself, or berate yourself for feeling that way? Now, imagine that same emotion is arising in you right now. This time, as it comes up, try saying to it, "I see you. You're allowed to be here." Notice what the emotion feels like in your body. Maybe a heat in your face for shame, a tight chest for anxiety, etc. Instead of turning away, do the opposite. Focus on the sensation with curiosity. You might mentally encourage it. Go ahead, get as intense as you need to. Paradoxically, you may find it doesn't actually get more intense. It might even start to soften or change quality. This is a technique borrowed from therapies like paradoxical intention in psychology, where a patient is encouraged to exaggerate their symptom or fear, often leading it to diminish. For instance, someone with insomnia might be instructed to try to stay awake as long as possible. As a result, they release anxiety about sleeping and doze off. By inviting the feeling in, you remove the resistance that was feeding it. A real-life example. Suppose you often feel social anxiety. Normally you might cope by avoiding social situations or by forcing yourself to act normal while internally freaking out, which is exhausting. What if instead you quietly acknowledge the butterflies in your stomach and sweaty palms when they arise, maybe even telling a trusted friend, "I'm feeling a bit nervous right now, and that's okay." Immediately, some of the pressure is released. You're not pretending it away or tensely resisting, you're authentic about it. Many people find that when they name their fear out loud or own it, it loses some of its grip. The friend might respond, "I get nervous too," and suddenly that anxiety monster shrinks, no longer a shameful secret you must battle alone. The breath as an anchor. Emotions live in the body as much as the mind. One of the simplest ways to accept an emotion is to breathe with it. If fear is present, notice where you feel it. Say, tight belly. Place a hand there and breathe, imagining the breath gently massaging that area. If sadness is a lump in the throat, breathe into it and maybe let a sound or sob come on the exhale if it wants. By aligning your breath to the feeling, you stop fighting the wave and start surfing it. A technique in mindfulness circles is called surfing the urge, often used for addictive urges or strong emotions. Instead of clamping down when the urge or emotion rises, you intentionally ride it out like a surfer on a wave, observing how it naturally grows, crests, and eventually falls on its own. No wave lasts forever. In the same way, an emotion, if truly allowed and felt, will peak and then subside. The issue when we say it's not subsiding is usually that on some level we're still holding it back or fueling it with our thoughts. A fully felt feeling without narrative passes like a weather front. From rain to rainbow, a popular mindfulness practice to handle difficult emotions is the acronym RAIN, coined by meditation teachers. It stands for recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture, or non-identification in some versions. Here's how it works, and you can practice this next time you're upset. Recognize, notice, and name the emotion. I'm feeling anger, or fear, or grief, etc. Simply acknowledging it begins to diffuse the struggle. Allow. Instead of immediately trying to fix it or push it away, consciously allow it to be there. It's okay that anger is here. Let me feel it. This is that crucial act of surrender. Remember, allowing doesn't mean you approve of a situation. It means you accept your reality of this moment, i.e., that this emotion is present. This stops you from wasting energy in denial or resistance. Investigate. Gently explore the emotion with curiosity. Why am I angry? My boundary felt crossed. Underneath that, I feel hurt. Notice where it sits in the body and what it's telling you. Maybe the anger is protecting a soft spot. Maybe your fear has a worried voice saying, I don't want to fail. Listen and see what insights arise. This isn't overthinking to amplify the pain, but mindful inquiry to understand it. Tip: keep the investigation kind and not an intellectual interrogation. Feel into it more than think into it. Nurture. Finally, offer yourself some form of compassion or support. This could mean speaking to yourself as you would to a dear friend. It's understandable you feel this. I'm here for you. You might place a comforting hand on your heart or do something soothing. Drink water, step outside for air. Nurturing reminds you that you are larger than this emotion and you care for the one feeling it. In some versions of RAIN, the last N stands for non-identification, meaning you remember, I am not my emotion. It's a temporary experience, not the totality of me. This perspective itself is nurturing because it frees you from feeling engulfed. By applying RAIN or a similar approach, you transform an episode of emotional turmoil into an opportunity for healing and release. You've effectively practiced emotional alchemy, turning the raw discomfort into something meaningful and eventually neutral or even positive, like greater self-understanding or compassion, the backwards law of emotions in action. It's worth noting how this process flips the script on how we usually handle emotions. Normally, one might think, if I indulge feeling sad or angry, I'll just feel worse. But counterintuitively, allowing yourself to fully feel it with awareness often makes it better. It's precisely resisting the feeling that makes it stick around. To use an analogy, imagine you're floating in the ocean and a big wave comes emotion. If you tense up and try to stiff arm the wave, it will smack you harder and knock you down. If you instead relax and let yourself bob with the wave, you'll float right through it. You might even dive under it and let it pass overhead. Either way, you come out the other side much less harmed. Emotional acceptance is like diving into the wave. It might be intense for a moment, but then you're through it, instead of being dragged by it. In fact, accepting emotions can lead to profound inner peace. Many forms of therapy, like acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, center on the idea that we can carry even our painful feelings without being controlled by them. Paradoxically, when we stop trying to control our feelings, the feelings themselves often change for the better. You may find that what felt unbearable when you were running from it becomes quite bearable when you face it. A panic attack's worst peak might last only minutes and then recede once you say, "Okay, panic, do your worst, I'm here." Fear feeds on avoidance. It shrinks in the light of presence. Real life example. Embracing anxiety. Let's say you have a fear of public speaking. In the past, you'd get nervous and tell yourself, calm down, don't be nervous." Basically fighting the anxiety, which only makes you more nervous as you notice your racing heart and think, "Oh no, I'm losing it." Now, applying what we've discussed, you take a new approach. Before a talk, you feel the jitters, and instead of resisting, you say, "Ah, there you are, nerves. It's natural. This matters to me. My body is getting ready to help me perform." You breathe deeply and maybe even mention to a colleague, "I always get a bit nervous before these things." In doing so, you normalize it. On stage, if your voice shakes for the first few sentences, you don't panic. You think, "Just ride this wave, it will settle." And indeed, as you keep going, the adrenaline finds its outlet, and you start to feel more at ease. By the end, you may even harness that energy into a passionate delivery. Here, you practiced letting go of the meta-stress, stress about being stressed, and found your flow. Affirmation for emotional surrender. You might find it helpful to use affirmations or reminders to reinforce this new attitude toward feelings. For example, "It is safe for me to feel my emotions. I lovingly allow all feelings to flow through me, knowing they will subside in time." Or, "I am bigger than what I feel. I can hold space for these feelings and learn from them." Choose words that resonate with you and repeat them, especially when you catch yourself tensing against an emotion. When emotions overwhelm, none of this is to say that intense emotions are always easy to sit with. If you ever feel completely overwhelmed, it's okay to take breaks, splash water on your face, ground yourself by feeling your feet on the floor, or focus on something around you, like the sensation of holding an ice cube, which can jolt you out of spiraling thoughts. Acceptance does not mean you must wallow or drown in the feeling. It means you neither run away nor feed it with catastrophic thinking. You ride it in manageable increments. If the wave is too big, there is no shame in seeking support. talking to a friend, counselor, or using techniques like writing the feelings out on paper to give them form. These can all be part of acceptance too, allowing the feeling to be expressed. Through emotional wisdom, you cultivate an inner resilience. You start to trust that no feeling is final, as the poet Rilke said. You learn that you can survive anger, grief, or fear by actually going through it, rather than skirting around it. This builds confidence, the real kind, grounded in self-trust. Ironically, once you're not afraid of feelings anymore, they hold much less sway over you. You become freer and lighter, not because you never feel pain, but because you no longer live in terror of it. This is emotional freedom, the result of surrender, not avoidance. With this growing freedom, you're ready to tackle the next layer of the backwards law, our impulse to control life externally. We've worked on not controlling or suppressing our inner experiences. Now we turn to how we relate to control in the world around us and our life circumstances. By learning to release the tight grip of control, we align even more with the flow we've been talking about. Let's explore the art of letting go in action. The art of letting go, releasing control and surrendering to life control. We often crave it more than anything. We plan, manage, and attempt to direct every aspect of our lives, believing that by controlling outcomes, we'll secure happiness and avoid pain. While a healthy sense of agency is good, an excessive need for control is like trying to grip water in your hands. You end up losing the very security you seek. In this section, we delve into how to practice surrendering control in a practical, day-to-day way. This is not about giving up responsibility or becoming passive. It's about discerning what's within our control, our efforts, choices, attitudes, and what isn't. Other people, the passage of time, the outcomes of our actions, and then having the wisdom to let go of what we cannot hold on to. The Serenity Prayer Mindset. You may have heard the Serenity Prayer widely used in recovery communities. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. This simple line carries deep wisdom on control. Much of our mental anguish comes from trying to change things outside our power, like another person's feelings or a past event, while neglecting the things we can change, like our own reactions or habits. Letting go of control is essentially about acceptance of what we cannot change. It doesn't mean we approve of those things or that we stop caring. It means we stop futilely fighting reality. In doing so, we reclaim energy to influence what is changeable. External versus internal control. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Rome taught that freedom and tranquility come from focusing only on what lies within one's own control and letting go of attachment to everything else. They observed that we control our own actions and attitudes, but not the results. For instance, you can prepare diligently for an interview, your input, but you can't control whether the company hires you, their decision. If you tie your well-being to the outcome, you ride a roller coaster of anxiety and disappointment potentially. But if you focus on what you can do, present your best self, and detach from the result, you stay steady and at peace, come what may. Interestingly, this inner steadiness often improves your performance in life because you're less anxious and more present. By surrendering the outcome, you ironically increase your chances of a favorable one. A beautiful example of the backwards law. Consider quicksand and trust. A dramatic illustration of surrendering control comes from survival training. If caught in quicksand or a strong rip current in water, the counterintuitive advice is to relax and even lean back. Struggling and flailing will only make you sink faster or exhaust you. Those who survive learn to stop fighting the medium, sand or water, and instead use it by floating and letting the water carry them, or by moving slowly to let the sand support them. Similarly, in life, when circumstances feel like they're pulling you under, a project is falling apart, or you're facing a health scare, after doing what you reasonably can, the best thing might be to stop fighting and allow events to unfold, trusting you will find your footing in time. Surrendering control here means not thrashing in panic, but conserving your strength and finding the flow within the chaos. Letting go in relationships. One of the toughest places to relinquish control is in our relationships with others. We often unconsciously try to control how others behave or feel toward us through persuasion, people-pleasing, or even subtle manipulation, and we suffer when they don't comply. Parents experience this profoundly. You guide and care for your child, but you ultimately can't control who they become or protect them from all harm. Coming to peace with that is a journey of surrender. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you recognize your child or partner, friend, etc. is their own person with their own path. You shift from force to influence, from gripping to holding with open hands. For example, imagine a parent who always hovered and corrected their teenager's every move, trying to ensure they make no mistakes. The teen likely responds with rebellion or withdrawal, slipping further from the parent's influence. Now consider a parent who provides guidance and sets boundaries, but also trusts the teen to learn from their own mistakes. That teen feels respected and is more likely to come to the parent for advice and to internalize the values being modeled. By relinquishing total control, the parent actually gains a healthier influence. As Mark Manson noted in his list of life paradoxes, the more we try to make people trust us, the less inclined they will be to do so. The more we trust others, the more they will trust us in return. Trusting others, giving them space, often invites them to rise to the occasion and behave in trustworthy ways. Constantly trying to control them sends a message of distrust that can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Techniques to practice letting go. Set an intention of surrender. Each morning, when you wake up, take a moment to affirm something like, "Today I will do my best, and I trust the rest to life." Visualize releasing the outcomes of the day's events as if releasing balloons into the sky. You still hold the strings of your efforts, but then you let them fly. This simple ritual can put you in a mindset of proactive detachment, engaged with life, but not clenched around results. Use if it happens, great. If not, that's okay. Mantra. For any particular hope or outcome, quietly say to yourself, if it works out, great. If not, I'll be okay and find another way. This trains your brain to realize that multiple outcomes are survivable and that your well-being isn't hinged 100% on one scenario. It's an act of cognitive letting go. Over time, this reduces performance pressure and fear of failure. Athletes sometimes use this technique to avoid choking. They tell themselves, "It's just a game. I'll give it my all, but I'll be fine regardless." This frees them to play in the zone. Delegate and invite others in. If you tend to control things by doing everything yourself, because no one else will do it right, practice the art of delegation. Start small. Ask a family member to take over a task you usually micromanage, or let a co-worker lead a part of a project even if their style differs from yours. Notice the discomfort as you relinquish the driver's seat. Remind yourself that different doesn't necessarily mean worse. Even if the result isn't exactly how you would do it, is it acceptable? Maybe even surprisingly positive. Often, letting go of control opens the door for collaboration and creativity. You might be delighted to find others contribute ideas or improvements you wouldn't have thought of. And if mistakes happen, you handle them together. It's not all on you. This not only frees your time, it teaches you emotionally that the world doesn't fall apart when you're not pulling every string. Practice non-interference for a day. Choose one day to consciously refrain from unnecessary controlling behaviors. This means, for one day, don't give unsolicited advice. Don't try to fix others' problems unless asked. Don't overplan every hour. Instead, respond to what arises. If a colleague does something in a way you wouldn't, let it be unless it's truly harmful. If your spouse loads the dishwasher, wrong, bite your tongue and let it run. If your child chooses a wild outfit, let them wear it. Observe what this brings up in you, maybe a bit of anxiety or itch to correct, and just note it. By the end of the day, reflect. Did the world end? Perhaps everything went fine, maybe even better in some instances. Maybe there was more laughter because you weren't tense. Maybe someone else stepped up and solved a problem without you instructing them. Non-interference can reveal how much energy you spent intervening when you didn't really need to. Surrender ritual. Sometimes a symbolic act helps to release a mental hold. Write down on a piece of paper whatever you're struggling to let go of, a specific outcome, a worry, a relationship that ended, etc. Hold the paper, acknowledge how deeply you care, then tear it up or burn it in a safe way, perhaps in a bowl or fireplace. As you do, say, "I release this. I trust that what is meant for me will come, and I make space for it." Watching the paper dissolve into ash or fragments can be cathartic. It's a physical affirmation of psychological release. The immediate moment, our true domain. A key aspect of letting go of control is shifting attention from what might or should happen to what is happening right now. You've probably noticed that when you're fully absorbed in a task or enjoying a moment, say cooking your favorite recipe, or listening deeply to a friend, or engrossed in a hobby, worries about control and outcome fade away. You're just in it. This is closely related to the flow state we mentioned earlier. In those moments, you haven't necessarily forgotten your goals or responsibilities. You've just placed your attention on the present step. Life then becomes a series of present moments, each handled as it comes. This mindset inherently reduces the craving for control, because control is a future-oriented concept, trying to guarantee a future state. By anchoring in the now, you implicitly trust the flow of process, over the illusion of control over the future. Neuroscience shows that in flow states, there is a quieting of the brain's self-referential thinking, the DMN, and a harmonious functioning of attention networks. This means the brain is less preoccupied with itself and its fears or agendas, and more united with the task at hand. We can't force ourselves into flow, that would be another paradox, but we can create conditions for it by letting go of distractions and fears. It's like inviting a muse by cleaning the studio and playing some music, but not demanding she show up. Often she will. Story: the archer and the target. There's a teaching story from Zen Buddhism about a master archer. A young man eager to become a champion archer trained very hard, practicing day and night. But in tournaments, he would get tense and often miss the mark. He sought out a famed Zen archer for guidance. The master watched him shoot and noticed how rigid and anxious the student became whenever he aimed at the target. The master then performed a demonstration. He asked the student to blindfold him, then proceeded to hit the bullseye purely by listening to the wind and releasing the arrow without seeing the goal. The student was astonished. The master explained that focusing too hard on hitting the bullseye can actually spoil the shot. A true archer becomes one with the bow, the arrow, and the present moment. The target is essentially already hit in his mind by the time he releases, because he is fully in the process, not the result. In practical terms, the master had let go of the need to hit the target, and thus could relax enough to allow his years of training and the natural forces to guide the arrow true. The student gradually learned that accurate shooting came from a state of relaxed concentration, not from willpower or worry. By letting go of the outcome, seeing or obsessing over the bullseye, and trusting his body, he improved dramatically. From this story, reflect on your own targets in life. Are you staring so hard at them that you're missing the joy and skill of the process? What if you release the arrow with trust, letting the universe carry it where it needs to go? You might find, like the archer, that your aim improves when your mind is clear and calm. Affirmation: I release my grip on what I cannot control. I trust that when I align my efforts with love and intention, life will unfold as it should. I am open to outcomes that are for my highest good, even if they differ from my expectations. Repeat such affirmations when you feel the claws of control clenching. For example, when you catch yourself in obsessive planning or worrying about the what-ifs. We have journeyed through understanding and awareness, through feeling deeply and letting be, and through releasing the compulsion to control externalities. At this stage, you might notice something profound, a sense of spaciousness in your life. When you stop trying to control everything, life actually feels larger. There's more room for surprise, for creativity, for genuine connection, and for grace to enter. You've loosened the bottleneck that your fear and effort created, and now life's energy can flow in and out more freely. With this new space, however, can come uncertainty. Surrendering control means embracing the unknown to an extent. This can be unnerving, but it is also where the magic happens. The next section is about trusting the process, how to cultivate faith in the flow of life so that you can relax into this openness with confidence rather than anxiety. Trust is the bridge that carries you from letting go into actually achieving, often in unforeseen ways, what you desire. Let's walk that bridge now, trusting the process, embracing uncertainty and flow. At the heart of letting go lies a fragile yet powerful thing: trust. Trust in yourself, trust in others, and perhaps most importantly, trust in life itself. The idea that there is a larger process unfolding, even when we can't see it, and that if we align with it rather than resist, it will carry us to where we need to go. This trust is not blind or passive. It's an active choice to replace fear of the unknown with curiosity and optimism. Cultivating trust is what allows us to fully embrace uncertainty and enter the state of flow where life unfolds with a sense of rightness and timing that we could never have forced. The nature metaphor. Consider how nature operates with an inherent trust. A seed buried in soil doesn't get to see the sun or know exactly when rain will come, yet it doesn't resist its growth in fear of the unknown. It trusts the natural process, sprouting in darkness, growing roots before shoots, breaking through the ground when the timing and conditions are right. It follows an inner blueprint without second guessing. Similarly, the moon waxes and wanes, the tides rise and fall. There are seasons of growth and seasons of rest. These rhythms happen on their own, reliably, when not interfered with. Now imagine if we could adopt that kind of trust in our own journey, believing that our life has seasons and timing, and as long as we keep nurturing our growth, like watering the seed, the outcomes will manifest at the right time. This can relieve an enormous burden of anxiety. You don't have to force the bloom. You create the conditions and then allow it to bloom. A beautiful anecdote that illustrates trust in process is the classic Taoist parable of the farmer. In a village, a farmer's only horse ran away. Neighbors said, "What bad luck." The farmer simply replied, "Maybe, maybe not." A few days later, the horse returned, bringing with it several wild horses. The neighbors exclaimed, "What good luck!" The farmer again said, "Maybe, maybe not." Later, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses, was thrown off and broke his leg. "How unfortunate," the neighbors clucked. The farmer, unfazed, said, "Maybe, maybe not." A week later, the army came through, drafting all able-bodied young men for war. They passed over the farmer's son due to his injury. The neighbors said, "What great fortune," and the farmer said, "Maybe, maybe not." This story shows the wisdom of not getting caught in immediate judgments of events because we can't see the full picture. Something that seems bad could lead to something good, and vice versa. The farmer's refrain of "maybe, maybe not" reflects a deep trust in the unfolding of events without attaching to each twist as final. He flows with what happens, responding as needed, taking care of his son, etc., but not succumbing to despair or elation at each turn. Over time, this even-keeled trust accumulates as a kind of steady happiness or contentment that isn't rocked by every change of fortune. Flow state, effortless doing. We discussed flow earlier in passing, that state where you are so engaged in the present activity that you lose track of time and self-consciousness. Flow is often described as action without strain, being in the zone. In flow, one is challenged and active, but with a sense of ease, a perfect embodiment of effortless success. How do we encourage more of flow in life? According to researcher Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who pioneered flow studies, flow occurs when our skills are well matched to a challenge and we have clear goals and immediate feedback. But psychologically, a big part of flow is the absence of the inner critic or worrier. The default mode network quiets, as mentioned, meaning we aren't self-analyzing or doubting, we're just doing. Athletes often achieve this by training so much that they can trust their bodies and stop overthinking during performance. Artists get there by immersing in the creative process, trusting their intuition to guide brushstrokes or words. To bring this to everyday life, trust is what allows you to get out of your own way. When you trust the preparation you've done or trust that you can handle whatever comes, you free yourself to actually be effective in the moment. For example, if you have a big presentation, trusting the process might mean, I've prepared as well as I can. I trust that if I stay present, I'll find the right words, and if something goes off script, I can adapt. Then during the talk, you're not mentally second-guessing every slide. You're connecting with the audience and ideas naturally. If a question arises you didn't anticipate, you stay calm and address it with honesty. Many speakers report that when they stop rigidly scripting and start speaking from the heart, trusting their knowledge, the outcome is far better and more authentic. Neuroscience also speaks to this. In moments of trust and flow, the brain's fear centers, like the amygdala, are quieter. We essentially signal safety to ourselves. When you internally say, "It's okay, we got this," to your brain, it down-regulates the fight or flight response. This is why self-talk matters. A kind, confident inner voice builds trust internally. Telling yourself phrases like, "Whatever happens, I'll handle it," or "Let's see how this goes, I'm open to surprise," can tilt you from anxiety to curiosity. The role of faith or higher perspective. For many people, trusting the process is bolstered by a spiritual or philosophical belief that life is not random chaos, but has an underlying order or meaning. Whether one believes in God, the universe, fate, or simply the intelligence of nature, it can be comforting to feel co-held in this existence. Alan Watts often spoke about life as a musical dance, not a journey with a finish line we must race to, but a song to be enjoyed while it's played. In a dance, you don't aim to end up at a certain spot on the floor as quickly as possible. You simply move with the music. Likewise, trusting life could mean viewing it as a collaboration between you and something greater. You do your steps and trust that the music will be there to support you. If you have a spiritual practice, you might incorporate a prayer or meditation on trust. For example, in meditation, you can visualize handing your worries to a higher power or into the flow of a river. See your intentions as little boats you set afloat on the river of life. You guide them to the water, but then you must let the current carry them. Sometimes the current will take them on surprising routes. Trust that it's okay. This visualization can be very soothing if you're a person who tends to over-control. It reinforces that you're not alone in making life work. The universe is a partner. Creative waiting. Trusting the process also involves patience. After you've let go and done what you can, there may be a period of waiting. This can be the hardest part for those of us used to constant action. But consider that waiting is not wasting. Just as seeds germinate unseen, a lot can be happening under the surface while you wait for results. Ideas need time to marinate. People need time to consider proposals. Healing takes time in the body. By trusting this hidden phase, you avoid the mistake of digging up the seed to check its roots, which would actually hinder growth. Instead, you wait with intention. Perhaps you occupy yourself with something else constructive or enjoyable, trusting that when the time is right, you will know the next move. There's a term in psychology, incubation period. Often when grappling with a problem, after a lot of conscious effort, the best thing is to step away and do something unrelated. In that incubation, the subconscious mind continues working and solutions can suddenly emerge, like having an aha moment in the shower or on a walk. This requires trust to step away without an answer yet. But how often have you struggled with a problem for hours to no avail, only to have the insight pop up when you relax later? That's the process at work. So, next time you hit a wall, remember to trust by taking a break. It's not slacking, it's making space for clarity. Affirmations of trust. We used some earlier, but here are a few more you can use, either as mantras or journaling themes. I trust the timing of my life. I am exactly where I need to be right now. The universe is conspiring in my favor, even when things don't go according to my plans. I have faith in my abilities and in forces beyond my sight. Good things are unfolding. Uncertainty is my friend. It brings opportunities I cannot yet imagine. Try writing one that resonates on a sticky note and placing it where you'll see it in moments of doubt. Visualization. Floating on the river. Let's do a gentle visualization to embody trust. Close your eyes and imagine you are lying on your back in a calm, gently flowing river. The water is the perfect temperature. The sun is warm above and you are buoyant. You feel the water holding you up effortlessly. You realize you can float without sinking as long as you relax. So you loosen every muscle, spreading your arms, gazing at the blue sky. The current begins to carry you downstream. You don't know what's around the bend, but you have a deep assurance that this river is ultimately taking you to a beautiful place. As you float, you see trees and sky drifting by in your peripheral vision. You feel safe and at peace as the river cradles you. If a little ripple or rapid comes, you ride it like a gentle coaster, maybe even feeling a thrill but not fear, because you trust yourself to this water. In this experience, you are practicing pure letting go. You're literally supported by something greater, the water, gravity, nature. Take a few breaths and bask in that sensation of trust. Know that in life, you can similarly float. There is a river of events carrying you. Panic and you might flail. Trust and you will be carried to the next calm stretch. When you're ready, open your eyes, carrying with you that embodied feeling of being supported. Coming out of these reflections, realize how far you've come. Trusting the process is often the turning point in the journey. It's where anxiety is alchemized into excitement and control transforms into collaboration with life. With trust, you no longer feel alone against the world. You feel part of a larger story. Now, trusting does not mean everything will always go the way you want. It means you trust that whatever happens, it is part of your growth, and you will find a way to make the best of it. Sometimes the road will twist, but perhaps it was leading you to a better vantage point. With trust, even setbacks are seen as setups for something new. Real-life resilience. To illustrate trust in practice, think of anyone you admire who has weathered storms in life gracefully. Often they'll say things like, "In hindsight, losing that job was the best thing that happened. It pushed me to start my own business," or "I didn't get into my dream school, but I met my best friend at the school I did attend, which changed my life." These are trust stories. If you don't have your own yet, borrow belief from others' stories. They are evidence that letting go of one storyline allowed a better one to unfold. Begin to view life through this lens. Life is happening for me, not to me. Even if you're not fully convinced yet, try that belief on. It dramatically shifts how you experience each day. We have now touched on awareness, emotional acceptance, relinquishing control, and trusting life. Each part builds on the previous, forming a strong foundation for living the backwards law. The final step in our journey is to integrate all of this as a way of life, to embody surrender not as a one-time act, but as a continual practice and mindset. In the next section, we'll discuss how to sustain and deepen this approach over the long term, so that letting go to achieve more becomes not just an inspiring concept, but a lived reality for you. Living in surrender, embodying the backwards law every day. Surrender is not a destination, but a way of traveling. It's a daily practice, a moment-by-moment choice to release resistance and lean into life with openness. As you move forward from here, the goal is to weave the backwards law principles into the fabric of your lifestyle, so that letting go and flowing becomes second nature. In this final section, we'll explore how to maintain this philosophy in the face of life's ongoing challenges, and how to deepen your capacity for surrender over time. We'll also summarize the key takeaways and provide some final exercises, like affirmations and mindful habits, to support you in truly mastering the art of letting go for greater fulfillment. Surrender versus apathy, clarifying a lifestyle of letting go. It's important to clarify that living in surrender does not mean giving up on life or losing motivation. Some worry, if I let go of striving, will I just become lazy or complacent? The truth is quite the opposite. Surrender means letting go of the need for things to be a certain way, but it doesn't mean you stop caring or acting. In fact, when you're less weighed down by fear and obsession, you can act with more inspiration and clarity. Surrendered action is powerful because it's in harmony with reality, not fighting it. Eckhart Tolle put it well: surrender does not mean to passively put up with whatever situation you find yourself in. It does not mean to cease making plans or initiating positive action. Surrender is the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to rather than opposing the flow of life. In a surrendered life, you still pursue goals, but you do so with joy and flexibility. You still face challenges, but you accept they are part of the journey and meet them with grace rather than rage or despair. The continual practice. Here are practical ways to embody surrender daily: mindfulness, meditation, or prayer. A regular practice, even 10 minutes a day, of sitting quietly with your breath can reinforce all the principles we discussed. In meditation, you observe thoughts and let them pass, which trains you to let go of mental attachments. You might use the out-breath as a symbol of release, silently saying, "Let go," on each exhale. If you pray, you might daily hand over your worries to your higher power, affirming trust. This daily tune-up keeps your surrender muscles strong. Journaling for surrender. Maintain a journal where each evening you reflect on instances during the day where you practiced letting go, or where you could have and will next time. For example, today I noticed myself getting impatient in traffic. Instead of stewing, I took deep breaths and accepted the delay, enjoying a song on the radio. Or, I had a disagreement at work. I acknowledged my feelings and expressed myself, but I didn't cling to needing to be right. I'm at peace with how it ended. If you slipped up and got very controlling or resistant in a situation, write about it kindly and envision how you might handle it differently with surrender. This keeps you learning and accountable in a gentle way. Physical reminders. Sometimes a talisman or daily object can remind you of your commitment to let go. Perhaps wear a bracelet that you touch when you notice tension, using it as a cue to release. Or stick a note on your fridge or car dashboard with a keyword like flow or let go. One creative idea, a small stone to represent burdens. You can carry it in your pocket, and whenever you feel a mental burden, hold the stone, then physically set it down on a table or shelf, symbolizing setting down that worry. Over time, you might not pick the stone up as much because you internalize the letting go. Breath and body. Check-ins. Our bodies are honest signals. Set an alarm or use everyday triggers, like before meals or when you sit down at your desk, to do a 30-second check-in. Am I tense anywhere? What's my breathing like? Often we'll find tight shoulders, clenched jaws, shallow breaths, signs we're holding something. Consciously relax that spot and take a fuller breath. This interrupts accumulating stress. A surrendered life is one where tension doesn't get to snowball unchecked. It's released regularly. Laugh and find joy. Laughter is a form of letting go. You release strict control of being proper and allow joy to erupt. So, cultivate humor. When something goes wrong, if possible, laugh at the absurdity. Laugh at yourself when you catch yourself being overly serious or dramatic, in a kind way, not mockingly. Joy and play are actually serious tools for a surrendered life. They keep you light on your feet, adaptable, and remind you not to take everything so gravely. As the saying goes, angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. Adopting a playful attitude means you're not overly attached to one play. You can improvise and have fun with whatever comes. Service and empathy. Another beautiful outcome of letting go of egoic striving is you have more bandwidth to connect with and serve others. When you're not obsessing about your own success or problems 24/7, you notice people around you more. Acts of kindness and service can reinforce surrender because they shift your focus from me and my control to how can I help or collaborate. They open your heart. Also, seeing that you can contribute positively even when you're not in total control of everything builds trust in community and the idea that life supports us through each other. It's easier to surrender control when you know you're part of a supportive web. Embracing ongoing learning. Living the backwards law is a continuous learning process. You will still face times that test your ability to let go, and sometimes you'll slip. Perhaps a new desire arises and you find yourself obsessing again, or a sudden crisis triggers old control habits. The difference now is you have awareness and tools. Instead of condemning yourself, you'll recognize, aha, here's a chance to deepen my practice. In fact, life will surely give you opportunities to practice surrender. That's one thing you can count on. Each time, it gets a bit easier. Think of it like stretching a muscle. At first, it's tight, but with repeated gentle stretches, it lengthens and becomes more flexible. So too, your mind and heart become more flexible and open. Over months and years, you may look back and realize situations that would have made you panic or furious before now hardly ruffle you, not out of indifference, but out of a cultivated inner peace. That is real progress. Gratitude, the unsung hero. One practice that supercharges this journey is gratitude. When you actively appreciate what is present in your life, you reinforce the mindset of abundance and sufficiency, countering the grasping of lack. Gratitude grounds you in the now and what's working, making it easier to let go of what isn't or of endless future cravings. A daily habit of listing a few things you're grateful for, small or big, can maintain a positive, trusting state. Even gratitude for challenges, thank you for the lessons this situation is teaching me, can be empowering. It frames life as happening for growth, not to torture you. Gratitude is essentially saying to life, I trust you and I celebrate you. It's hard to be in surrender without also feeling grateful, because surrender shows us so many gifts we overlooked while chasing other things. Living examples and role models, it can help to find inspiration in those who embody surrender. This could be spiritual figures like the Dalai Lama, who despite losing his country lives with compassion and acceptance. Or contemporary figures like a mentor who handles adversity with grace. Notice what these people have in common. They often exhibit calm, wisdom, and a lightness of being, even in difficulty. They haven't stopped participating in life. In fact, many are very active. But they have an aura of peace. It comes from living in alignment with the backwards law, whether they call it that or not. Emulating their attitudes, not putting them on a pedestal, but learning from them, can guide you. Sometimes even asking yourself, how would a wise, surrendered version of me handle this, can reveal the path. The rewards of surrender. As you make surrender a lifestyle, you'll likely notice some wonderful changes. There's more ease in your days. Not that you won't work hard or encounter difficulty, but you'll find a rhythm and lack the inner friction that used to accompany so much of what you did. You may also discover that you're more effective than ever. Ironically, letting go to achieve more isn't just a slogan. It really translates to real-world results. Maybe your career advances because you're less stressed and think more creatively. Perhaps your relationships blossom because you listen and accept others more, creating harmony. You might achieve personal goals, fitness, learning a skill, etc., faster because you've released the mental blocks of self-doubt and pressure, allowing genuine passion to fuel you. And on a deeper level, the reward is a profound sense of freedom. Freedom from being a slave to circumstances. Freedom from the tyranny of your own expectations. Freedom to fully be yourself. When you live by the backwards law, you understand the reason you want to be better is the reason why you aren't. So you drop that neurotic self-improvement frenzy and ironically become a better version of you naturally. You start to enjoy the journey itself, which means no moment is wasted. This is fulfillment, not a future destination, but a present experience of wholeness. Final affirmations and takeaways. Let's cement some of the key lessons with final affirmations or reminders. I breathe in acceptance and breathe out resistance. A reminder to use the breath as a tool anytime. I welcome the unknown, knowing it's where new possibilities live. Reframing uncertainty as friend, not foe. My worth is not defined by outcomes. I am whole and worthy in any state, decoupling self-worth from success/failure. I choose to live gently and powerfully, guided by wisdom rather than force. Aligning with wisdom, which is the heart of surrender. Each day in small ways I practice letting go, and in doing so, I gain peace, insight and freedom. Encouragement to practice daily. Feel free to write your own manifesto of surrendered living, a short paragraph or list that you can read often to remind you of your commitment to this path. A gentle journey. Forward, as we conclude, picture your life as a vast flowing river, much like the one you floated in during the visualization. You are moving forward in time, inevitably, but how you move is up to you. You can fight the current, cling to the banks, try to swim upstream, causing exhaustion and suffering, or you can trustingly float and steer as needed, enjoying the scenery and using your energy wisely to navigate. You have the knowledge now that floating doesn't mean drowning. It means cooperating with the currents of reality. You also carry a boatload of tools: mindfulness, journaling, breathing, perspective shifts, trust, gratitude. These are your oars and rudder when you need them. There will be calm stretches and rapid ones, sunny days and storms. Surrendering is not about controlling the weather or water. You can't. It's about controlling the only thing you truly can, the way you ride the waves. Now you ride them with a grounded center and adaptable spirit. Closing visualization, your surrendered future self. If you will, take one last imaginative leap. Envision your future self, perhaps a year or two from now, who has diligently practiced the backwards law principles. See this you standing in a beautiful setting, maybe on a hilltop at sunrise or a peaceful room. Notice the demeanor, perhaps a serene smile, relaxed posture, clear eyes. This future you has weathered challenges but carries them lightly as wisdom. They move through life like it's a dance. What message does this future, more surrendered, you have for you in the present? Maybe something like trust, it all works out, or stay present, stay open, or simply a warm, wordless hug of reassurance. Take that message to heart. Know that this vision is not far-fetched. It's a real possibility that begins with the choices you make each day, each moment to let go and let life in. Thank yourself for embarking on this journey. The very fact that you've engaged deeply with these ideas means you've already begun transforming. As you step back into the flow of everyday living, do so with an empowered heart. You are not abandoning effort. You are elevating it to a smarter, soul-aligned effort. You are not abandoning goals. You are inviting even greater goals, those your soul truly wants to emerge. You're moving from force to power, the quiet, unshakable power that comes when one aligns with the truth of how life works. In summary, the backwards law taught us that to have, we must not crave. To win, we must not fear losing. To be happy, we must allow some sadness. To be in control, we must release obsessive control. It's all about balance and harmony, working with reality instead of against it. Now you've seen this paradox intellectually, felt it emotionally, and practiced it in small ways. Keep practicing. Over time, it will become your new normal. May you find that sweet spot where your efforts meet grace, where your dreams manifest not by struggle, but by natural unfolding. May you experience the profound relief of knowing you don't have to hold the whole world on your shoulders. And may you discover, as so many have, that when you let go, life holds you and carries you to heights you never dreamed possible. Take a final deep breath, inhaling this entire journey into your being, and exhale with a smile. You are ready to live in the beautiful freedom of letting go, achieving more by holding on less. Affirmation: all that I need comes to me at the right time. I release, I trust, and I embrace the flow of life, and so it is. Go forward and let the magic of surrender guide you to ever greater peace and fulfillment. You've got this, and life's got you.